Hello and welcome to WyzGyz Entertainment. This is your host Wyman. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to go over this bizarre meeting that Lucasfilm had, where they had this whiteboard up and they were discussing what kinds of key things we're looking for in the future of Star Wars. And we're just going to go over it, and basically I'm going to be appalled that the Lucasfilm group is in this chaotic state. In fact, I think they might have lost their marbles, because this is pretty ridiculous, and it's a bizarre way of it's, to be fair, it's a form of brainstorming with a group of people, but at the same time the things that they're coming up with are quite ridiculous. So let's check this out. So it's evident, yeah, Star Wars is fiction. Yeah, that's fine. They're looking for authenticity. The world that they create should be authentically lived in. All right, that I can understand that. That looks fine. So, things that are newly manufactured, like the new Millennium Falcon, when we're first introduced to it in Solo, A Star Wars Story. Yeah, all right, I can see it. It's all nice and shiny and white, not worn in. But then when you see A New Hope, then it looks like it's been thoroughly lived in. Surprise, yeah, all right, I can see surprise, but so long as you don't confuse that with Rian Johnson's what was the phrase again? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Oh crap. I'm blanking out. It's something like altered expectations, subdued expectations. Oh shoot. Yeah, well, no one should be listening to Rian Johnson. Diversity. The challenge we're finding with diversity is the way Lucasfilm is doing it, and actually Marvel seems to be following this path as well, unfortunately, is they're shoehorning in diversity. The funny thing about the Star Wars franchise, it's always been diverse. It's always been filled with loads and loads of aliens of all shapes, sizes, colors. But, here you go, thinking that you need to force diversity into Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is arguably just as diverse as Star Trek. Actual ending, well, so far they've been failing at that. As we all know, J.J. Abrams is pretty good about revamping big franchises, but he has a hard time in the writing department in terms of coming up with a good, compelling story and then finding a way to close it or end it properly. His endings in his movies tend to flounder all about, with no sense of direction and more questions left than answered. Feelings. Oh dear. It's evident that when they released Star Wars, the Force Awakens, that they heavily relied on the original trilogy. They wanted to suck in all the original fans. So they heavily piled on the fifis or the feelings. Um, it's expected to a certain extent. You just don't want to do it to the extreme that Pixar has been doing as of late, where every movie seems to be hell bent on making you cry. So feelings have a part in it, and the key is to uh, make a movie and a compelling story that you can relate to, and that you can connect with, and you do so through emotion. Um, yeah, that's pretty much the way to go. Relatable characters, yeah. But it seems like whenever Lucasfilm does it, they want to do it in terms of diversity. Uh, they want to force the diversity in, and make it think that it's going to relate to everyone. But the problem is, it always backfires for them. You ever notice how even with Disney Star Wars, they still have not just the characters in the movies, but also the people who are putting them together. There still is full of Caucasian people, usually straight, and as is relatively common, the lead female character is a brunette. So they don't really listen to their own advice. And in terms of relatability, I don't know about you, but I don't have to, and I was touching on this in another video, I don't necessarily have to see myself in a movie or a comic book or whatever. It's not like I necessarily need to see excuse me, a chubby Asian with a pot belly who's into nerdy stuff, loves computers, loves ramen noodles, and is good in math. Yeah, I don't necessarily need to see a character like that brought to the pages in my out in the pages of a mainstream comic book or a movie or whatever. I view movies, TV, comic books and even books, traditional books, as a form of entertainment and as a form of escapism. I'm big on escapism because, we deal with enough crap in the real world. Sweeping or epic, yeah, that's what the original 6-movie Star Wars saga was. But it seemed to all fly out the window when Disney took over running Star Wars. All right, so now we're talking about Star Wars itself. Not pro-war. I don't think it ever was pro-war. I think the idea is you've got this oppressive entity, killing killing species willy-nilly. They want control. They want power. They want riches beyond their wildest dreams. And they're doing it for the sake of all the the general population, the populace. And so, the rebel alliance got together, and they had to fight for their rights. It's kind of like when the Americas were formed, the original 13 colonies, and England wanted control, so they had to fight back. I am getting my history right, aren't I? History was one of my worst subjects. I was great in math, I was great in art, and I was decent in science, but history has always been one of my weakest subjects. But yeah, it's kind of like the U.S. was, the early Americas were fighting against the tyrannical monarchy of kings and queens. So let's see here. We got droids. Obviously, you got to have droids. You got to have. Oops, sorry. You got to have droids in Star Wars. It's a given. But you don't necessarily always have to make clones of existing droids. I mean, did we really need BB-8? I mean, he's cute and everything, but I don't think it was very satisfying to have BB-8, because BB-8 more or less, or at least the way the Lucasfilm tried to do it, they tried to basically write R2-D2 out of the script. That's why he was supposedly sleeping, or turned himself off. Turned himself off when Luke went into hiding on Octu, a deserted island. Well, not deserted. And I found that utterly ridiculous. I mean, really? R2 wouldn't do that. R2 has been part of the Rebel Alliance for many years, or however long the wars lasted. But R2 was there in the prequels. And based on some of the stuff I read, I think it might have been extracted from the EU, the extended universe. As I understand, R2-D2 is technically considered a general. I know, I thought that was a goofy idea, but the fact is he is a real crucial and critical part of the Alliance. And he is given the responsibility of storing tons of crucial information. Not only is R2 privy to the Death Star plans, but he gets access to like Death Star elevators, and he's present at the all the meetings that the Alliance has. So it's like, you can't not have R2 involved in some form or fashion. And he's also on the battlegrounds, so he and 3PO are crucial. And to just like write him off and like let BB-8 take the lead, and I wouldn't have minded so much if they would have given R2 a prominent role in the Disney trilogy. Scope, okay, I guess that's a given. You just want to stay within the mythos of the Star Wars universe. You don't want to deviate from that. You want to stay true to the original canon. Mythic? Okay, alright. Let's see here. Space and lightsaber battles. Yes, you definitely need a lot of each. What was curious is how Lucasfilm pretty much ignored their own advice again. Sure, it had some space battles, but The Last Jedi had a slow motion car race, essentially. And in the entire Disney trilogy, there weren't really any memorable lightsaber battles. Even the one in, yeah, even the one in Last Jedi, in Snoke's throne room, that was just meh. There was no excitement, uh, no energy to the choreography. It was like doing things by rote. Okay, first I do this, then I do that, then I do this, then I do that. So it's like, oh man, nothing like the prequels or the original trilogy. I mean, some people knock the fight between Luke and Vader and how it seemed kind of stilted or whatever, or actually Luke and Vader, but also Obi-Wan and Vader in the original trilogy. And actually it made sense for its time, and they actually referenced actual sword fighters, and they got experienced people working on that choreography. And it almost seemed as though in the sequel trilogy, the Disney trilogy, that I could be wrong, but I haven't really looked into it myself, but it seemed as though they didn't really use any choreographers at all. Because number one, there were hardly any lightsaber battles. And number two, all the battles they had were like slashing, flailing your arms, and hoping the lightsabers hit each other. There wasn't anything memorable. It didn't even seem like there were much of anything in the way of actual lightsaber battles, at least from what we're used to in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. No single main character. Well, I don't think there ever was a single main character in Star Wars. It's always been like a trio, it seemed. In the original trilogy, you had Luke, Leia, and Han. And then you had your secondary characters that rounded it off. In the prequel trilogy, I'm thinking it's mostly Padme Amidala, Anakin Skywalker, and Obi-Wan. So, and then of course they had their supporting characters as well. So, I don't think that's a problem. Although it seems like in Disney Star Wars, they predominantly have Rey as being a single or main Mary Sue character. Alright, the Force, yeah. Yep, the Force, you definitely need the Force, but what's interesting is they don't seem as though they understand the Force. Disney, Lucasfilm doesn't seem to understand the Force. Go back to school, children's. Star Wars wishes. High Republic. As of the recording of this video, High Republic's already been announced, and it looks like it's going to be a flop, just as most of Disney Star Wars has. By that I mean, I think Rogue One was actually kind of cool. I enjoyed it. Even if you remove the Vader scene at the very end, I think it's still pretty cool. And Solo, although I don't think anyone even asked for it, I thought it was rather boring, but it was there. I guess you could say Solo was better than Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker combined. But High Republic, that's another video, because Shudder. Relic Hunters. I think they're trying to come up with, I think they're trying to go down the route of let's go deeper into holocrons and Sith artifacts, which I don't particularly mind, but at the same time, I'm concerned. I'm worried that Disney Lucasfilm is going to go in the way of like Tomb Raider or Indiana Jones and go that route. Does that say university? As in education? Or is that supposed to be inclusivity? Inclusiveness? I think that's already been in Star Wars from the get-go. Dinosaurs? See, this is weird. I don't know if by dinosaurs they were literally thinking along the lines of T-Rex or Brontosaurus or Brachiosaurus, pterodons, or if they were referring to the kinds of beasts that you saw in the prequels in the Genosian arena, or that loud screaming lizard-like creature that Obi-Wan was riding. But if they're talking about like full-on allosaur, ankylosaur, stegosaurus, things like that, I think they're off the rocker. Representation, diversity, we kind of touched on that in the first section. And you don't want to force that stuff. If you can write the story and put the movie together and have it feel organic, yeah, fine. No big deal. But if you're going to shoehorn every race, creed, sexuality, gender, then it's as good as lost. Okay. Alright, I'm having trouble reading this writing. I'm usually real good at reading other people's writing. It might be because it's kind of blurry. Is that Arthurian legends? As in King Arthur? If it is, I mean, I understand getting influence from other things, like George Lucas, when he made Star Wars, had a lot of influences, but I don't know if you want to go the King Arthur route. Man, I really don't know. Because Transformers tried to do that, and I thought it turned out to be a big old mess. It didn't seem to make sense. It didn't make much sense to me that Transformers went down that road. Rival houses. Well, now it sounds like they're talking about Harry Potter. Harry Potter. No. No. You've already got the Jedi. You've got the Sith. You got bounty hunters. You've got rebels. You don't need rival houses, really. Sith Empire. Well, you got the Sith, and you got the Empire, and okay. And then the last one that is on this list, I think there was more writing underneath, but I must have grabbed the wrong screenshot, because this one might be missing a couple things. I think that says Chaos Agents. I'm not exactly sure what they mean here, so I can't really comment on it. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for joining WyzGyz Entertainment. And please like, comment, and subscribe. And mark the notification bell. See ya. Whoopsie.